Hello, and welcome to a new episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. Thank you to everyone who's joined us by listening so far. Don't forget to follow so you never miss an episode, and also rate, review, and share so that others can find us too. Today's episode is hosted by me, Anna, and on today's podcast, we're joined by Dr. Fiona Peters. Fiona has a background in social care, a PhD in sociology, and is a published author. Her award-nominated debut book, Fostering Mixed-Race Children, was published in 2016, and her second work was also met with great acclaim. She is passionate about bringing improvements to the lives of children and young people. After an adult diagnosis of ADHD, Fiona added empowering neurodivergent children and adults to live their best lives to her already extensive list of ambitions. She does this through in-person community engagement, speaking and training events in educational and organizational settings, and now as a guest of a podcast. Dr. Fiona Peters, thank you for joining us and welcome to ADHD Babes.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me on ADHD Babes. I'm excited to be here.
So are we, thank you. So that our listeners can get to know you a bit better, Fiona, can you tell us anything important that we may have missed in the intro about you or what you do?
So I'm like most people with ADHD, I'm very entrepreneurial. So I have a training and speaking company. So I go into schools and talk to students, and I talk to teachers, and I do CPD. And I also go into organizations and train on neurodiversity, autism and ADHD, and trying to raise awareness and understanding. And I am also the founder of ADHD Entrepreneurs Life, which is an online platform for entrepreneurs with ADHD. Alongside that, I am a property investor and have been for about 10 years. So I'm a landlord, and I invest in property in London, which is where I live. And so property is very much part of my everyday working life. So I don't want to leave that out because, the light's on, puts food on the table. So it's quite important to include that in my career. And I'm a mother and a wife. And that's probably my main job.
Absolutely. Yes, I identify with that. That's amazing. Thank you so much for letting us know into that amazing diversity of things that you do. I mean, there's so many. You're certainly very, very busy. So Fiona, you have a successful and rather illustrious career, and are certainly not what most people would imagine when you say ADHD. Can you tell us a bit more about how you came about your diagnosis?
Although I do think I'm fairly typical ADHD. And I think if we look around us at entrepreneurs and men and women who are doing business or in the arts, where a lot of ADHD people are, entrepreneurs, a lot of ADHD people are, I think I'm fairly typical. We get obsessed with things, ideas, creations, and I think we find it quite hard to be employees. So it leaves us no choice either to be an artist or a business person. And I straddle both spheres because I love writing, but I love business. So I think I'm a fairly typical ADHD person. And I've also got that resilience to bounce back from setbacks, of which there are many in the arts and in business. And the other thing that I want to say about that is that it's really those two spheres are the only places where we really can feel fulfilled in our lives sometimes, because I think in jobs, if you look at a traditional career structure, the job that you love, that you begin, isn't the job that you come to after 40 years, after you've climbed whatever ladder you're on against whatever wall, whether that be corporate or public sector, or you often end up being removed from what you really love about the profession that you went into. But as a business person or as an artist, I think you can evolve and adapt, and we're very good at that. And you can change your ideas. I've had different businesses, and I'm not scared of stopping something if I don't like it anymore, or changing, or, you know, just doing something else. And I know that wasn't the question, but I just wanted to put in a little caveat to encourage listeners who are maybe sitting there thinking, A, I never finish anything, B, I don't know what I want to do, and C, they're different. You know, they think that the way that society tells them what they ought to be is the only way. And I just want to put it out there that actually you have permission to be who you are and not who you've been prescribed to be. You don't have to do it the traditional way, because that way isn't always for people with ADHD. And the reason why I say all this is because when I sought a diagnosis, I was working as a teacher in a school, because I was trying to put myself into a box and trying to do what people thought I should do. And those people were my family and people around me. And I always felt like I was a non-conformist. And I thought, I'm going to just try and be ordinary. I'm going to conform. I'm going to see if I can do this. I wanted to challenge myself and say, can I hold down a job? Am I employable? Have I got something to offer outside of my own interests? And I very quickly found out that the answer to those three things was no. I'm not really employable. I can't hold down a job, and I'm not interested in anything that doesn't stimulate me. So I was in a school, I was teaching, and I felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown. And it was primarily because I had sensory overload. So the lights were too bright, the smells were too smelly, the noise was too loud. Everywhere I went, somebody was there, and I was overstimulated, and I literally felt ill. I felt physically ill. And I remember going into this room. It had two small desks in. It was like a cupboard. And I used to just go in there and work, you know, plan lessons and all that sort of thing. And because I just couldn't be in the staff room because it was just noisy and distracted, and I was distracting. And I remember just feeling tired at the end of every day, like physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted, because I was being overstimulated. And I couldn't understand what was wrong with me. Not that even though I realized that actually the school system was wrong. You know, a lot of the kids that I had a lot of empathy with were the kids that couldn't sit still. They were the kids that couldn't be in lessons. They were the kids that were getting up and fidgeting and twitching and speaking before they put their hand up. And so there was a lot of the behavior in there reflected my own behavior. Even as a grown woman, I behave in that way. And there isn't space for that in school. You've got to conform. And I'm a non-conformist. And so I was really, really uncomfortable. And I thought I was having a nervous breakdown. But then I was also in the menopause. So I was thinking, oh, my God, I must be menopausal. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. So I went to my GP. And he was almost in tears. Honestly, he was very, very sweet, but he was absolutely useless. So I went to my GP and I said, I'm having these issues. I'm under huge stress. I'm in this job, blah, 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 blah. And he said, oh, I think it must be menopausal. And I was like, yes, but this can't be normal for the menopause. I think there's something wrong with me. And I was looking at all the kids around me and thinking, right, well, they've got ADHD, they've got autism, they've got this. They had a whole range of learning needs. And I thought, that's me. That is me. So I said to him, I think I need to have a diagnosis of ADHD because this isn't the menopause. And he refused. So I didn't realize. So at the time, that you, through Psychiatry UK at that time, this was several years ago, that your GP could not actually refuse a diagnosis. So, but I accepted his answer at that time and spoke to Psychiatry UK, and they said, no, actually, you claim back any private diagnosis fee from the funding for your local authority, from the local health trust. But long story short, they wish they didn't do that to me, because I created a bit of a fuss, as you do when you have ADHD. You have a strong sense of social justice, right? It's got to be right. You have to be treated fairly. And they were being unfair. And actually, they denied me my right to a diagnosis. And so I went to the clinical commissioner and put in a formal complaint, which was upheld, and I got an apology, but I didn't pursue a claim for the money that I'd spent on my private diagnosis. So then I came under the health trust, and I was able to get my reviews under the health trust. But the diagnosis was fraught with drama and made me feel worse. So that was probably one of the worst times in my life, because I think when you have to go through that, and then you're going through a process of accepting a diagnosis, it becomes overwhelming. So, you're dealing with a big bureaucratic organization. You've got a job that you hate, that you're terrible at, and you're also trying to accept that you've got ADHD. And you're in the menopause. I mean, Jesus, it's a cocktail for disaster. So I wasn't in a good place.
Yeah, that sounds it was a very, very difficult time. I think I identify with that, and many women who have been late diagnosed probably go through the same sort of process as well. And I feel like the system needs to change, because it still sort of applies to many, many women today. But the more stories we hear, I feel like the more we can impact, and the more we can get awareness that it's just not us creating a fuss. Like, there's actually something that needs to be done, and it needs to be made easier for people and more accessible for them as well. Following from what you said, what has been the impact, or what's the impact of having an official diagnosis been?
Having an official diagnosis for me, now, I'll speak about how I feel about it now. I think it's helped me to really understand and accept myself, and to not mask who I am, to be wholly myself at most points, and to not overthink and overanalyze every action, decision, behavior, and tell myself that I could have done differently, or that I have, made a mistake. I accept my ADHD as part of who I am. It underpins me. And I feel like it gives me a certain edge in my life. Not in the sense of a superpower. I'm not quite sure I believe in that ideal, but I feel like there are definitely traits about having ADHD that I positively engage with and enjoy. And then having that diagnosis confirms and is life affirming, because now I can look back on my childhood and my adult life and go, oh my God, now I understand that. Oh my God, no wonder. There were all sorts of instances that just, I was like, tick, 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 tick. This all makes sense. I can now let go of it and enter that process of forgiveness that comes with acceptance, forgiveness of self, forgiving mistakes in the past, or decisions that I made, or lack of clarity, or relationships that didn't work out the way that I thought. I could have dealt with things differently. I've let go of those very unrealistic expectations that I had of myself. Looking back in hindsight, you know, you only do the best at the time with what you have, right? So, you know, it's no good now me going back and saying, oh, I could have, shoulda, woulda. Beverly Knight, coulda, woulda, shoulda, coulda, woulda. What is the thing? Shoulda, yeah. Anyway,
I'm not sure.
great song.
But yes, along those lines.
Yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Yeah, she's got a great song, so I love that song. And so I do feel like, yeah, an official diagnosis was life affirming. You know, made me feel like, oh,
yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a mix. I feel it's a mixture of emotions, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, obviously you're embracing and you're happy that you're diagnosed and everything kind of makes sense now. But then at the same time, it's a little bit exhausting because some of those traits I don't really like, but I have to get used to sort of dealing with them and understanding myself. I feel like it opens a whole sort of a whole door of getting to know me again. Even though, because I feel like it's a bit confusing as to who I was before and who I am now. It just kind of makes more sense, and then it goes on to sort of my next question, which is being a woman of color, being mixed race, of a woman of mixed heritage. How were your experiences then and now as a neurodivergent person, and how has that informed the way that you work now and how you approach your social life as well, your work and also your social care and consultative role?
Yeah, so I think definitely when I finished my PhD, which was about mixed race children in foster care, my work then was very, very underpinned by my own personal ethnic heritage and identity, the way that I identified. And I thought at that time in 2000, I started talking about mixedness in probably 1995, 96. So nearly 20 years ago, 30 years ago, how many years ago? But anyway, whatever. So I started having that conversation then. My undergrad dissertation was about mixedness. There were no books published by UK authors on mixedness at that point. So I was in the library reading US authors. I was absolutely obsessed with mixedness. And then I did a PhD. Again, mixedness was front and center, and published my PhD in a book in 2016. So all the training I've done between 2010 and 2019, 2020 was very much about advocating for practitioners in the social care setting to consider how the classification of mixedness impacts on care experiences of young people of mixed race. So back then, I was all over that. That was 10 years. I was completely obsessed with it. I was living and breathing that identity. However, my work now doesn't center my ethnicity. And I know obviously I have a lived experience of being mixed, and that kind of sense of intersectionality comes into play here because I embody my identity. I am a mixed race Black woman. And so for me, I don't always have to lead in my work or in my life with that identity. I can lead with other things. I can lead with property. You know, I can lead with ADHD. I can lead with training. I speak about perfectionism and anxiety. I don't necessarily lead with my ethnic background, but I'm still leaning with my identity because I have ADHD. So I do feel like my work is embodied. My professional work is embodied. Even when I write mostly from experience. I can't get away from my embodiment, even if I wanted to. It just is. It creates my inner world and my outer world. So, you know, I don't. You know, in my work with ADHD or neurodiversity, I don't say, "Oh, I'm a mixed race Black woman," But I do say I'm a woman with ADHD, and I understand that positionality. So, yeah, very much, yeah, my personal position does really inform my voice in the public sort of social sphere and what I do. But my ethnic heritage, I don't lead with that.
That's good. That sounds really, really good. Do you talked about intersectionality, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. So how do you think these intersections affect how other people perceive or relate to you in each one of your roles?
I've no idea. That's actually none of my business. I don't give a flying pig about how they relate to me, what they do or don't do. I'm not particularly interested in their opinions because I just want to do the work I want to do. And,
right.
you know, if they're choosing me because they think I'm filling some sort of diversity quota, then sad on them. If they're choosing me because I've got something important and interesting to say, then I'm all over that. But sometimes, you know, I think as a mixed race Black woman, you can end up being this sort of poster woman or poster person for the Black voice. And I don't have an authentic Black voice. I have an authentic mixed race voice. So I get slightly irritated when organizations use me as the Black person when I don't have a Black experience. I have a mixed race experience, and there's a difference. There is a difference, and I don't want to have that responsibility. But, you know, I think it's important that we speak from our lived experience, and then we share our lived experience, and we find commonality, and we don't elevate one oppression over the other and become kind of victims, you know, who are buying into this narrative that, you know, all types of Black women, for example, are oppressed, or because some of them are truly not, or all white men have power because some of them don't, or all mixed race people are, you know, have colour privilege because we don't. So I think we need to be careful about the narratives that are being peddled to us that encourage us to live in victimhood. And personally, I feel like sometimes organisations and the media can end up sort of creating this bubble that we all believe to be true because that suits their agenda. But as individuals, that doesn't suit us. So, yeah, I'm very much take people as I see them. Of course, I experience racism. I'm not saying I've never experienced it. I experience it weekly, you know, from some white bloke pushing in front of a queue, or, you know, like walking into me like I'm invisible, or expecting me to step off the pavement so they can pass, like that sort of BS behaviour. And interestingly, today, story, right? This is racism, right? So I'm walking down the road with my dog, who's a cockapoo. I've got my hood up. I'm very pale, right? I can look white from a distance. So in front of me is a sister, dark-skinned, plaits in her hair, older woman. She's slightly ahead of me. There's a van. We're walking towards the zebra crossing. There's a van coming. He's not stopping for my sister ahead of me. So I can see that he knows I'm there, and I know he's there, and I realise he's not stopping. So even though I'm not on the crossing, I step into the road and I put my hand up as if to say, thanks for that. I take my privilege seriously. So me and the sister cross over the road, and I thought, that driver was not stopping for this woman. He wasn't stopping for her. And that could be my mum, because my mum's Black. My mum's dark-skinned. So I thought that could actually be my mum, and that's bloody rude. So let me just step off into the road here to encourage this guy to see that we both need to cross. But, you know, it's that sort of thing that I witness as a mixed race woman, that is racism towards Black people, that doesn't happen to me. So I can't speak from a Black experience.
That's right. That's super interesting and enlightening, and very much you've given me a whole education, because sometimes you do feel like you can put people into the same box. You feel like you can sort of that we all have the same experiences, and we don't. I am a Black woman, but I'm originally from Latin America. I'm Colombian, so I'm a woman of mixed heritage as well. And most of my friends are white Colombians, so when they see me, if I walk into a restaurant that is Colombian, they'll talk to me in English, and I will respond in Spanish, on purpose, because I'm like, I speak Spanish. Otherwise, why would I walk into this restaurant? Not that I would expect other Spanish speakers not to walk into restaurants, and they will say to me, "Oh, wow, no, we didn't think that you would speak Spanish because you look English." And then I will come back and say, actually, I don't look English at all, because English people are Caucasians, they're white. So no, I guess I'm supposed to say you look African or Caribbean or whatever. So yes, I understand. And it's true. We do have these situations, and I am one of those people who stands at a zebra crossing, and I would not move until I can see that this guy is going to stop, because that happens to me all the time. Some people will stop, some of us will drive straight past, and I will stand there, because nowadays you just don't know, you're going to get run over. I'd rather leave. Yeah. Thank you.
You don't
pick your battles. You pick your battles, don't you?
Yeah. And they're daily. They're daily. And when people talk about these unconscious biases and microaggressions and da-di-da, like they're everywhere. Now we have a language to describe them. To me, it's bloody rude. It's just rude. Plain old rude. I could see exactly. Absolutely. I could pick up exactly what was going to happen. I hadn't reached the crossing. He was going straight past,
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. And I know a lot of us will identify with that.
Yes.
With that situation. And I feel like you're so passionate about sharing your knowledge and your skills, and all the time that you give to help people to realize their own potential, wherever the background, because as you said, we all have specific nuances or experiences that are unique to us. And I just want to know where that drive actually comes from.
Oh, God only knows. I don't know. God knows. God gave it.
Excellent.
I don't know. I really, really don't know. I just don't. And you know what the weird thing is about having ADHD is you don't see what other people see. So I don't even think I'm driven. I still in my head think I'm lazy. I still think I'm not reaching my potential. I still think I'm, not working hard enough, because I am actually quite lazy. Like I actually am quite lazy. If I were to work 8 hours a day, I'd rather not. I'd rather actually go for a walk, do some exercise, eat some nice food. I'm actually fairly lazy and quite relaxed. You won't find me getting stressed out very often over work. I don't really think it's that important, because it never really has been. What's important for me is on a daily basis trying to do things to feel like I'm in my body and feel healthy. And when I work too much, I neglect myself. So a typical day for me involves a lot of movement and a lot of exercise. And it wouldn't suit everybody, but that's what feeds my soul. That's what gives me energy. And just that downtime from people and from responsibility and from other people's needs and demands and expectations. Like I need quite a lot of self-care in order to function at my best. The more I have, the better I am. So that's my work. That is actually my job.
Absolutely brilliant. That's really, taking from that, it's true. We do need those times to kind of take care of our well-being and I feel like I am one of those people who has absolutely so much on their plate. I do so much as being, having ADHD. I'm still waiting for a diagnosis on autism. And I am very I'm a yes person. So I'm always interested in a lot of things, that sense of social justice. I've got my day-to-day job that I do, but I would love to be doing something completely different. So I started a master's in social justice and business management actually about a month ago. So I'm sort of like really happy that I've taken the step to do something completely different. I've been a civil servant for 9 years and was just completely bored out of my mind. And I was just like, I need to do something else. And because I was so bored, I was also doing loads of other things, like volunteering with loads of different charities, doing school activities with my children, doing part-time work during the weekends, because I just felt like it wasn't enough. And at the same time, it started to get overwhelming and exhausting. And I thought, okay, now I need to start taking care of myself, because this is actually, affecting my well-being as well. And so I started doing that, going out. I got a dog. So,
got a dog, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I added more work to my list, but anyways, he's here now.
Yeah. Wow. We need to talk about this dog business,
Oh my goodness. I got obsessed with the fact that I needed a dog. I've got 3 kids already. Yeah. And my husband was like, no. I know at the end of the day, it's going to be me looking after him. I'm going to be the one taking him out for walks. I was like, no, it's going to be my dog. It's my responsibility. And against all his wishes, I went ahead and got my dog. And now I'm stuck with a very massive Japanese Akita, who's not even 2 years old yet, and he's a menace.
They look like foxes, don't they? Aren't they ginger with a long nose and a bushy?
No, so my one is actually black and white.
Oh,
and he has got a long nose.
Yes,
yeah,
seen that.
And also he's very just very big, just so big and furry. And when he shreds his hair, it takes him like a month or 2 months to get rid of all his coat.
Oh,
so there's hair everywhere.
Oh, no.
And yeah, needless to say, it's just been he's been a handful. And I feel like I don't take him out as much as he should, because I think he needs to go out like 3 times a day. I do it once if I can, and then my husband is the one that so it's like, I knew it. I knew this was going to be me taking the poor dog out, because no one else is bothering to take him out.
No.
And he absolutely feels so sorry for this dog now. But I mean, I do love him. I do take care of him.
Have they bonded? Does your husband?
They have. Yeah, they have. And I feel like he listens more to him than he does to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he respects me, but he's the alpha, like he's the man.
Yeah.
So I would listen to him. So apologies about that. And that was just my phone that went off and gave a noise in the background. But yeah, so following for that, I would like to know what kind of advice you would give to our listeners on how to approach obstacles that they might have in reaching their full potential.
Oh, this is a good one. Do you know, I had on my website, people can book a discovery call with me for half an hour, right? So I had one last night, which I'll tell the truth about this, okay? I was at my daughter's home, and it was like, I don't know, 7 minutes to 6 or whatever. And I was heading home, and the little calendar invite popped up and said, oh, discovery call with Jen at 6 p.m. I was like, oh, shit. Takes me about 15 minutes to get home, and I've got 7 minutes before the call starts. I'm not going to hang around here because I don't want to be making a call in her home. And my other daughter was with me, and I was like, I need to get her home. I need to do dinner and that. But I was like, oh, what do I do? I'd completely forgotten about it, despite emailing her in the morning and saying, really looking forward to catching up with you in our discovery call at 6 p.m. out of my head completely. Anyway, I get in the car and I'm like looking for her number. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I thought, damn it. I just put her on speaker and I dialed, and 6 o'clock. So I was talking to her in the car and thinking, this is ADHD, isn't it? Like, you have all the good intentions, right? You know what you need to do. Can you remember how to do it? No. This is the problem. It's a disconnect. You know what to do. You're just not doing it. How do you join that up? You know, and I think this is the essence of why people, women, let's talk about women, ADHD babes, right? Let's talk about women. I'll talk about a bit about women. So this call with Jen, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but anyway, I'm sharing it, so whatever. She was talking about this disconnect between knowing what she wanted to do but not being able to do it. And we were talking through her dilemma, and she said, it's fear, isn't it? I was like, yeah, everything comes down to fear. That's all it is. Everything, like literally everything in life comes down to fear. Are you scared of doing it? But are you more scared of not doing it? So she wants to be, and we were talking, she didn't know she wanted to be an artist, but as we began to speak, she said, I'd really want to be recognised as a great artist, a great contemporary artist. In between all of the BS about, but this, and I can't do that, and this is this, and I need to do this, there was this one sentence about what she actually wanted, this one thing about being an artist. And I said to her, I know you said a lot of stuff, basically. You said a lot of shit to me, but I've got this one sentence I just want to repeat back to you. You said to me, I would really love to be recognised as a really good contemporary artist. So I said, is that really what you want to do? Is that your goal? And she went, oh, yeah, that is actually what I want. And then so I said to her, okay, so let's just hold that as a goal, right? Let's just hold that there, that vision that you want. And let's just see where you're at with that. So then she said, well, I've just invested £10,000 putting a studio in my garden where I go and work. I'm like, oh, so you are going for that goal then. You're just pretending you're not doing it. You're just pretending that you want to get a job because you want to legitimate yourself and your life. You're proving to others that you can do things, but you don't really want to do them. What you want to do is be an artist. So I think this is what happens sometimes with women, is we get stuck in, we know what we want, but other people have their voices in our heads. We have our own internal critics, very strong, our critic. And we end up living a parallel path, a parallel life, legitimating society and what society says we should be doing, legitimating people around us in our environment who are doing the ordinary things. And then we don't actually become who we really deeply inside want to be. And I think having an opportunity just to talk through with somebody who understands that position, and they can say to you, yeah, you could just go for what it is that you think you want. You could give it a year, put yourself out there, work through the fear, through it, not under it, around it, or over it. So you have to go through it, taking risks, even though people said you're not good enough, or, you know, you're not as good as you thought you might have been. But actually pursuing it, pursuing what you say that you want. Because then every single time you move forward, you may fail, but you've got to keep moving forward. You've got to keep failing. She was also scared of failing. Again, fear. It was fear of not making enough money, fear of not being good enough, fear of failing, fear of success, fear of wasting time, fear of not earning, fear of being seen as wasting her life, fear of this, fear of that. Nah. It goes on and on and on, and all it boils down to is you're scared. Say it. Just, I'm scared. Done. You're scared. Whatever. come on then, crack on, you know, come on, you're scared, but let's move it forward. So she came up, I said, okay, well, what can you do then? So she came up with a whole list of things she could do. We can solve our own problems. If we get out of the way, we can solve our own problems. But a lot of people spend a lot of money getting other people to solve problems for them, and then they don't like the solutions. So, you know, be brutally honest about what it is that you want, say it out loud, write it down, put it in front of you, and set about achieving it. Tick it off the list, and then move on to something else. And as you'll never get rid of fear, you see. It's like a shadow. It's meant to be there. We're supposed to live with fear. I mean, walk down the road, you might get run over. You might get run over on the zebra crossing if you. It doesn't stop you from going out. It doesn't stop you from going out. If there's something on the other side of that zebra crossing that you want, like, I don't know, a donut or a coffee or whatever, it's not going to stop you crossing the road. You just mitigate the risk, and then you step out, and then you step out, you see. So you start small, you put a toe out, and then you put another foot in front, and then you check, and then you go again. And so, you know, fear will always be with us, but you can't let it rule you. You can't let it be in control, you know, because when it's in control, you'll spiral. So I think for people listening, there's a great book, Feel the Fear, Do It Anyway. And it's got to be done.
Absolutely. So what's the book called again? I wouldn't.
So Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Yeah.
Excellent. I will definitely read that. Yes, our life is packed with fears. And I feel like obviously everyone has greater experiences where they've probably come across situations where it's made them even more susceptible to it. And the thing that we can do, it's, you know, get on with things and sort of confront our fears. And it's something that I constantly have to tell my kids to do, because I was taught that way as well. My parents were like, you know, what's the worst that can happen? Go and ask a question. What's the worst that can happen? They can say no. So if they say no, it's not the end of the world. If they say yes, you know, you achieved something. You got to, you know, you achieved whatever you needed to get. So I've also passed on that same baton to my kids. Like, you need to confront those fears, and if you don't, you know, oh mom, I'm so anxious, I don't want to talk to this person. Okay, that's just a person. It's just a human being. They're not gonna eat you, or, you know, what you got to do is obviously, as you said, mitigate your fears, but always try and confront it as well. So it's important.
She I always say to her, she says, oh, I'm scared. She's scared of everything, and when she's scared, she makes this funny noise, go, huh? What? So she plays football. So if she's like, you know, going to a training session and it's her first one, she's like, oh, scared. And I would say to her, are you scared? She says, yes. I said, you got to do it then. You got to do it. If you're scared, you got to do it. You got to do it because you can't let it rule you. So I think it's, and it's that fear of being judged as not good enough, or feeling like you don't belong, or feeling like you're not important or valued, or, you know, it's all fear. It's all fear or all love. It's either, isn't it? You either
absolutely
run it or you run away from it, but there's no real middle ground.
Absolutely.
I'd very much encourage people to run toward fear if what's on the other side is what they really want. Obviously, don't do it if you can't be bothered to pursue it, because it's no good putting yourself at risk if you're pursuing something that's not a worthy goal.
Right. So we are coming towards the end of our time, Fiona. And it's been so great to chat with you. I feel like you've achieved so much in your life so far, and you clearly have no intention of stopping just yet. Absolutely. What would you say is your proudest achievement to date?
Oh, my family. My family, hands down. Hands down. Is that one of your kids coming in, getting the stop?
Yeah.
right there.
It happens every time. I'm trying to keep them to, I'm trying to let them know I'm busy, I'm recording the podcast, and they,
yeah, they're curious about what you're doing. And
they keep walking past me, and they'll have it. And now that Dad has arrived, so he's encouraging more conversation in the background.
Oh, bless them. Do they ever just listen in? I should get my daughter to just come and sit with me.
I should. I'm going to do that next time. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to make them sit next to me and just hear.
Yeah, and just listen to the conversation. My family, they're my most, they're my biggest achievement, really. They're the people that, that I always come back to. They're just like an anchor. And they're like, I've got 4 children and my husband, and I've got wider family, but they are, the family that I have created is my greatest achievement. They're a work of art, with their varying types of neurodivergence. We're an interesting bunch, I'll just say.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, are they also neurodivergent? Yeah. Are they neurodiverse?
We're all so different. Everyone's got completely different interests. We have different values and do things very differently. Our communication styles are very different. We don't always kind of have harmony, but we do always come back together. Yeah, we don't. We have good communication, which means people get told about themselves regularly.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that likewise, I feel like family is the greatest achievement you can have. Yeah. And like I mentioned before, I was also late diagnosed, and this was because my daughter was diagnosed with, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and dyspraxia when I was in school. And then my daughter, when she first started primary school, she got diagnosed as well. This is my second child. And a whole process started. And then all of a sudden they said, we think that she may have ADHD as well. And then they said my son could possibly have autism. And then I could see my eldest daughter had also like loads of different traits, and I could see it in my husband, but he was just like, I'm too old to get a diagnosis. I can't be bothered. Like, I've lived life, I've gone to school, now I'm at work, what's the point of having a diagnosis? So then eventually everyone now has gone through the whole process of being assessed, and it's just amazing to find that they're so unique and they're so smart, because my children, some of them are very autistic and some of them are very academically inclined, even though they have neurodiversities. So it has nothing to do with what they call IQ or things like that. It's more to do with how you see life and how you understand the world and how you approach it. So it's been a journey. And I'm so glad that I'm not alone in this journey, that I come across people like you who are such an inspiration. That's so amazing. I was just thinking when I was listening to you, I want to be like her when I grow up.
Oh, wait, start now.
Because I still see myself as such a child. Like, I'm in my 40s now, and sometimes I feel like I can't believe I'm 40. Because
you're a baby. Yeah, you're a baby.
I am a babe. I'm a babe, and neurospicy. I love the word neurospicy, because it just it just shows how beautiful and how nice we are, and how the world needs us. We need it. Without us, there wouldn't be so many things that have been created.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking the time to come along and to have this beautiful conversation with us. To round up the episode, I want to recap what we've spoken about. And I've learned that, well, actually, I've learned so much. I am just trying to kind of like put it in bullet points because
I thought, good luck with that.
yeah, no, I mean, I am very good. I mean, I struggle sometimes to memorize things, but when I'm interested in a particular subject, I will remember like the most important parts of the conversation. And one of those is it's that we all have unique experiences. We all different. We have all different backgrounds. You can't just put everyone in the sort of black, we're all black, and even though you're mixed or whatever, we've all got those different experiences, and we observe all the nuances that we have in those experiences. So that's something that I will definitely take away and think about when I'm having conversations with a lot of my friends about, because I talk about race most of the, every single day of my life, there is a conversation about race. Unfortunately, that's the world that we live in at the moment. And I think that because people are becoming a little bit more awake and they're becoming more empathetic and understanding more about their past and their history is a topic of conversation that does happen quite often. And another thing is just getting rid of your fears, or not getting rid of them because you can't get rid of them, but like confronting your fears. If you're scared of going for that job, go for it. If you're scared of getting that driving license, get your driving license. If you're scared of, going back to school, going back to studying, go ahead and do it. Just if you want to set up your business, leave a job and set up a business, have a proper business plan. I'm not telling you to just forget it and leave your job and have a plan, have a getaway. There's a getaway plan sort of thing, like this is what I'm going to do in so and so specific amount of time, but just do it, confront those fears. Is there anything else that you would like to share that you might be having coming up in the work that you do? Is there any workshops or anything that you would like listeners to know about?
I think you summed up like the key points really well. Like the two key things are, having ADHD is another aspect of your identity. When you're a woman of colour, sometimes you can be misdiagnosed or diagnosed late or misunderstood because there are certain stereotypes around what it means to be a woman of colour. So be very aware of that kind of racism in the mental health service and mental health professionals that actually could be misdiagnosed, for example, with bipolar. ADHD and bipolar look very similar. And so that's the first thing I'd like to just put out there for listeners who think they might have ADHD but haven't had a diagnosis. Like, advocate for yourself strongly. And things like signs like depression, polycystic ovaries, postnatal depression, those sorts of things are indicators possibly that there is something else going on. So if you have mental health struggles and kind of not really sure what's going on, strong possibility is that there's ADHD lurking in the background. And so engaging with, mental health professionals, just make sure you're advocating for yourself and you're not misdiagnosed or mismedicated. Is that a word? Or wrongly medicated. So just be mindful of that. And the other thing I'd say about fear is fear lives with us. Be friends with it. Thank it. Appreciate it because it keeps you safe and has kept you safe. But you don't want it to overstep the mark and stop you from growing and developing and doing new challenging things with your life, no matter what age. I became a grandmother 3 years ago, and my eldest daughter has a 3-year-old son, and my second child has a 3-month-old son as well. So I've now got 2 beautiful grandsons. And when I look at them, I think, wow, I want them to talk about me in the most positive and glowing terms. I want them to see that I was still able to do life, and have capacity to love and care for them as part of my family, but also as part of my legacy. And so I think, that becoming a grandparent has given me that new perspective on longevity and sustainability and well-being, just making sure I'm the best version of who I am, and wanting to be really real about what I really like and what I dislike. So I'd encourage listeners to really begin to get to know themselves. I know a lot of women my age who had children at a young age, because that's what you did in the old days. And we're just going on a journey to reacquaint ourselves with ourselves, because womanhood has many chapters. And, in the menopause and post-menopause, a whole new chapter opens, and it becomes it can become, and not for everybody, allow it, invite it, give it permission to become a phase of life that sees you begin to open new interests and new desires into your world, because you're no longer having to care for young children, or maybe you've retired, so there are loads of freedoms that come with being older. And so I think for me, being late diagnosed ADHD, I would say to older women out there that, it ain't over until it's over.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, Fiona. It's been a pleasure to chat and learn more about you and the important work that you are doing. And see you next time. Actually, yes. Your social handles, your website and things like that, please.
Yeah, of course. So I'm sure all my bits and pieces will be in the show notes. So I've got many strings to my bow. But I would encourage people to visit my website. So that's www.drfionapeters.com. And on there, you can book a focused coaching session with me for 40 minutes. You can have a discovery call, get some clarity, or just air what's going on for you. I have resources on there that people can download and use that will help with productivity and focus. And so, yeah, there's lots of ways that you can engage with me on socials. I'm on Instagram as well, under ADHD Entrepreneur's Life, if there are people listening who are entrepreneurs and they want to hear some stuff about business. And that's me. That's all I'm going to give. 2 things. I don't want to overwhelm anybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us for this episode. Please feel free to follow our podcast so you don't miss future episodes, and follow at ADHD Babes on socials to continue the conversation. ADHD Babe members can also join the conversation on our members-only Discord and WhatsApp groups. So consider signing up and supporting us in doing more great work to support you, our wonderful community of ADHD Babes. Once again, would love if you could leave us a rating and a review and let everyone know your thoughts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.